This is a very gentle flow practice to support your body in movement during your menstrual phase. This is the time in our cycle where we are in our flow, so our period has arrived, and hormones are at their lowest levels. They've gone completely down, and it's something of a reset for the body. So that lowering of hormones is what signals the onset of the period. You might be feeling symptoms of fatigue. Sometimes that comes with our flow days, maybe even some cramping. And so in today's practice, what our goal is just to have something of an active rest, something to promote opening in the pelvic floor and the hips, and to facilitate a downward flow of energy. We're also cultivating the relaxation response through the breath and through the body, so that if you are experiencing some cramps, we can do it in a way that allows us to both find the contraction in the uterus to promote the shed of the uterine lining, but also the sometimes more important component of relaxation and opening and allowing and surrender. In today's movement practice, all you will need is a mat. If you are on a harder surface like a wood floor, you might want to have a blanket or a cushion. We are using a lot of grounded postures today where we're on the shins or the knees. So a blanket or a cushion can provide a bit of added comfort there. We're also enjoying legs up the wall at the end of this practice. So if you can enjoy this practice near a wall or move to a wall towards the end, that will help create the active recovery that we have to support you during this phase. This practice does come in a little bit longer than 30 minutes because we are creating lots of space for recovery and for breath work and reflection. It's really more of a moving meditation. And with that, there's no warm up or cool down. This flow has a natural rhythm to it, a warming sequence and a cooling sequence already included. Let's get started with today's movement practice. Thank you so much for joining me today for this very gentle flow practice to support your body in motion during your menstrual phase. For this practice, all you will need is a mat. And if you're on a bit of a harder surface, it can be nice to have a blanket or a bit of added cushion. We're going to be spending a lot of time in grounding postures to promote the downward flow of energy. So a blanket or an extra cushion can help alleviate any discomfort you might feel in the shins or the knees. It can also be nice to have a block, a thick, sturdy book works, or even a soup can, something that you can just raise the height of the floor up a little bit. You can also use a chair, but don't sweat it if you don't have these props. Really, all you'll need is a mat and a comfortable space to move. We'll begin our practice today in child's pose. So a couple variations here. You can bring the knees slightly wider than hips width and bring the toes to touch. And if you have any knee sensitivities or full flexion of the knees is uncomfortable, you can keep the hips high. You can stay here and just walk the hands out, maybe pillow the hands under the forehead. If you can bend the knees fully, you can lower the hips to the heels and let your legs be wide enough apart that you have space for the belly, but close enough together that the outer ribs are supported. So just taking care not to create any strain in the low back here. And we'll give ourselves several breaths here to arrive. So begin to cultivate that connection to the breath, in and out through the nose. And through the vehicle of the breath, by the simple act of just noticing it, we bring our mind and body to the same place. This is a time in the cycle where the channel of communication is more open between left and right brain. And this really creates an opportunity for reflection. So entering that space, that vibration here of just being curious. And we'll take one more breath here together. Inhale and exhale. As you're ready, begin to slowly unfold your child's pose. Coming into a tabletop, sway the hips side to side. Then allow the hands to walk slightly forward. Tuck the toes under here, pressing into the ball mounds of the feet. We're entering a very gentle downward facing dog. So keep the knees very deeply bent here. Begin to pedal out the feet. You can even bend the elbows a bit if that feels good. Wrapping the inner upper arm bones forward to create space in the back of the heart. Breathing here. Again, just gathering information. And then we'll add a bit of flow to this here. As you inhale, lower your knees, soften your belly, find cow pose. Shine the sitting bones back. Let the gaze float up. We'll stay here for cat. Round the spine, curl the tail under, belly draws in, press through the hands, open the upper back, chin to chest. And then again, inhale, cow pose, soften the belly, let the gaze float up, shine the sitting bones back, tuck the toes. For our exhale, back to downward dog. So follow that line of the sitting bones all the way up. We'll be there for a few more rounds. Inhaling, knees come down, soften the belly, let the gaze float up, untuck the toes. Round for cat pose, curl the tail in, draw the belly to spine, press through the hands, chin to chest. Inhale back through cow pose, soften the belly, gaze up, tuck the toes. Exhale, downward facing dog. So we're entering a moving meditation here, connecting breath and body. Inhale, knees come down, belly softens, gaze floats. Stay here for cat pose, round into the spine, really broaden the back of the heart, wiggle it out. Inhale, soften the belly, open the chest, tuck the toes, and exhale, downward facing dog. Pause here for a few breaths. And just checking in every step of the way, especially during this tender menstrual phase where we want to be very gentle with ourselves. Release any expectation you have for your practice. You can always just be in child's pose or in a resting position. That is your practice. Whatever you need, meet your body where you are. Let your knees come down once again. Find tabletop here, and I'll turn to face you so that you can see just a little bit better. And again, here it's nice to have that cushion under the knees. I'll mirror you in movement, so you can just do the same side that you see here. We'll take the right leg out to the side and just begin to circle the hip. So part of what we are cultivating in the menstrual phase is space and movement in the pelvic floor. So a lot of times in our workouts, we are creating strength and stability. And in these gentle practices, this is an opportunity to just release the root lock. So let your pelvic floor relax. These hip circles have that aim, that intention. And then pause when your leg is straight once again. Leave your left hand on the mat. Inhale, sweep your right arm up and open. Stay here for a breath, just allowing the upper back to rotate. So these hard to reach areas in the upper back, just imagine a gentle hand pressing your palm open. And then as you exhale, thread that arm under the left, bring your right ear to the mat. So again, just rotating the spine here. As best as you can, keep all four corners of the right foot planted. You might even add a bit of engagement action, pressing the knife edge of that right foot into the mat. And then slowly unravel, open that right arm out. And then here we'll just wrap the right arm around the low back, square the shoulders to your mat, and bring your left ear to your left shoulder. You should feel that space in the neck. You can move the chin down and away, just kind of creating a bit of sensation. A lot of times we get muscle tension, shoulder tension during this phase, so just allowing it to release. Cultivating the relaxation response. Release your right hand down now. And then again, if flexion in the knee is too much, you can stay upright and just walk your hands forward. Otherwise, we'll sink the hips to that left heel and crawl your hands out in front of you. You can turn the right toes up, press through the right heel, and energetically drag that heel back toward your right sitting bone. Just again, creating space and expansion in the pelvic floor to allow for healthy flow. We're opening the root lock, allowing energy to move freely there. And then slowly coming up. We'll keep your left knee down on the mat and just rise. Let your arms stretch overhead. Turn your right toes out to the side so you have an open hip position here. We'll just come into a half warrior two. Let your arms float out to T. This is always a great exercise for knowing where your body is in space. Can you level the arms left to right and let them be in one straight plane with the rest of the body? From here, take your right arm, wrap it under left for eagle arms. So options here, you can always take opposite shoulders. You can bring the backs of the hands together or wrap the upper arms, elbows, forearms, and wrists. Just a bit of a flossing for the shoulders here, moving that shape of your hands up and back down. As we create space in the bowl of the pelvis, you can kind of add a bit of a pulse here. So part of movement in the menstrual phase is really just to allow for that gentle rhythmic flow. Nothing too intense, really just helping stagnation move through. And release the arms now, reach them overhead. Let your right leg straighten. And then as you exhale, gate pose, reach the left arm up and overhead. You can take your right hand to your right hip or down the right leg. Opening here. And coming through center, inhale. As you exhale, the hands come down, coming back to tabletop. So I'm going to turn to face the long edge of my mat. You can stay as you are. So you have your right leg out to the side. Sweep your right leg straight back behind you, coming into spinal balance. So the right leg is lifted, the left shin is down. And then begin to reach your left arm forward. So again, this posture, great for connecting left and right sides of the brain. And this is the time in the cycle where they're really wanting that connection. There's a clearer path of communication. Take a big breath in. Keep the belly hugging to spine. And as you exhale, hug knee to elbow tap. Inhale, extend, create space and expansion. And then exhale, coil in, draw your energy inward. 3 more like this. Inhale, stretch back. And exhale. Inhale. Really creating strength and integration in the entire abdominal wall, which you wouldn't think that core work would be sort of prescribed for this phase, but I love this spinal balance posture for alleviating any low back pain and even cramps by creating a bit of integration. So by engaging the muscles, we're sort of demonstrating how we want them to contract. And then release the left hand down. Keep your right leg extended. Bend your right knee any amount. Press the top center of the right thigh up in space. And then you can touch your left hand to your heart. And this may be where you stay. This is kind of a bit of an ask for flexibility. And then if it's available, reach your left hand for your right foot. Press your foot into your hand, draw your hand into your foot, And aim the center of the right thigh up and back. Half bow pose. Releasing now both hand and right leg. And sway the hips from side to side. Just acknowledge any change, any difference you feel from one side to the other. And you can stay as you are. I'll turn to face you once again. We'll move into the other side. So coming into our tabletop position, you'll extend the left leg out to the side. And here, circling the hips, so creating a path for energy to move, adding a bit of mobility to the hip joint here. And again, we're always curious, so just noticing any places that feel a bit sticky, a bit like you're moving through some tension or some stagnation there. And then pause, turn your left toes to face the front of the mat. Let your right hand stay planted. Inhale, twist your left arm, open. So again, working into the upper back here. Imagine that palm pressing your top hand away. Then thread that under, so the left hand goes under right, left ear finds the mat. Here you might root down through the knife edge of the left foot, spreading the toes. And using the right shin for support, so a bit of an anchor, pressing down, creating some activation there. And then unravel here, inhale, open the left arm. And as you come back through center, wrap your left arm around the low back. Bring your right ear to right shoulder. Oh, this is one of my favorite stretches. If you spend any time in a car or at a computer, this is a great stretch for just kind of undoing any tension that might be in the neck and shoulders. And then releasing that left hand down. Again, here your options are to stay on the right shin, or you can start to sit the hips back onto that right heel. Crawl your hands forward. Release the forehead down. So as you stretch your fingertips forward, can you sink the hip creases back, creating traction in the spine? You might turn your left toes up now, pressing through the left heel. And then coming back out. We'll rise up here, stretching the arms overhead. Coming into half warrior two, bending into the left knee, moving the left shin forward, creating space across the bowl of the pelvis. The arms float out to T, telescope the ribs out of the pelvis, out of the hips. This time wrapping left arm under right for eagle arms. Take your options here. And just a slight pulse here. Up with the elbows and back down. Creating more space. Really just gently giving the body an entry point to movement that doesn't feel forced. That feels more like the moon and less like the sun during this time of the cycle. Release the arms out to T here, and then stretch them overhead as you straighten the left leg. Coming into gate pose now, stretch the right arm up and overhead. So as you press through the right shin, lift up all the way through the right fingertips. So right shin presses down, and then all the way up. Come back through that warrior two shape here. And you can let your hands come down in front of you. And I'll turn again to face the short edge of my mat, but you can just start to send the left leg back for spinal balance now on this side. So the left leg is back, wrapping the inner left thigh up in space. Start to reach your right arm forward, stretch in both directions. Shoulders and hips stay square. And then as you exhale, coil in, knee to elbow. Create that strength. And then from that place of strength, radiate outward. So this is sort of that metaphor for the cycle. We use our flow days, even the luteal phase, to turn inward, to create our intention, to cultivate awareness. And then as the follicular phase arrives, it's right around the corner, we begin to radiate out. So create that pulse, create that energetic quality here of coiling in and radiating out. Last two here. And inhale. And last one. Keep your left leg extending out. Let your right hand touch down. Bend into the left knee. Press the sole of the left foot up and the center of the left thigh up. Start to reach your right hand around. You might be here. This might be where you stay. If you can, let your right hand find the left foot. Press foot into hand, hand into foot. Start to stretch the heart up and open. Hug the inner thighs to the midline, even in the split leg position. Keep the belly strong here and release. Hand and knee come down, sway the hips from side to side. If you have your blanket or cushion, you can clear it for a moment here. Set it off to the side so that it's out of your way. And we'll tuck the toes under, walk the hands forward, coming into downward dog once again. Then as you're ready, step your feet to the outside of your hands. Toes turn out, heels turn in. We're coming into a deep squat here. So you can keep your hands on the ground for support. Don't sweat it if your heels come up. You can always put your blanket under your heels. We'll just be here for a few breaths in this deep squat. This is a great place to create that openness, that spacious quality in the pelvic floor. Soften the shoulders away from the ears. Press your elbows into your inner knees. And then as you inhale, sweep the arms up, stretch the body long, and exhale, squat back down any amount. We'll do two more like that. Inhale and exhale. Last one. Just inviting a bit of movement, a bit of strength in the legs here, and come back into your squat. Let your hands touch down. Begin to parallel your feet. Keep a deep bend in the knees. Find a gentle forward bend. So here, creating space for your belly to soften between the thighs. You can take opposite elbows. Find a ragdoll pose here. Just be mindful of your blood pressure and kind of where your circulation is. So it might not be the most comfortable during this phase to keep your head down. You can always keep it elevated. And from here, we'll come into just a few standing postures before we come down for our more restorative flow. So begin to step your left foot back in space. Turn the back heel flat so that your front heel is aligned with the back arch. You can have your block handy for this next posture and slowly rise in Warrior Two. So I'll just switch to mirror you here. So you have your right leg forward. So I'll turn so that I'm matching you in movement. You can have your block to the inside of your right foot. Begin to straighten your right leg and then level the pelvis. So notice if when you straighten your right leg, if the hips start to tilt, can you create more of a balance so the hip points are even. Let the arms reach out to T. And then here, as you reach forward, keep that balance. The pelvis might tilt just a touch. And then bring your hand to your block or your elevated surface. If you don't have one, it can be on the thigh, the hip, the shin, just avoiding the knee. Take your left hand to your left hip and create length there. So pressing the left hip down and away. Stack the shoulders. Send your gaze down first, release the neck, and then maybe turn the gaze up. If it feels good, you can release the left arm high, stretching fingertips toward the sky. Really press with your right hand down into your block or your mat. So I've been a student of yoga for over 10 years now, and it was about 5 years in maybe that I decided triangle pose just feels better with a block. So really had that conversation with the ego there and just found what feels good. Come up through center now, bending into that right knee, and then we'll turn. You can take your block to the center, turn the toes in, reach the arms up, and a gentle fold here. So if you have your block, it can be really nice to rest the forehead on the block. And just allowing some softness without kind of as much of the pressure in the eyes and the forehead. Make sure the weight is shifting slightly forward into the ball mounds of the feet so as not to strain the hamstring connection points. And then we'll slowly come back up. We'll switch sides now, so bring your block to your left foot. You can bend into the left knee, turn the right foot so that the outer edge is parallel with the short side of your mat. And then we'll begin to straighten that left leg, level the hip points here, find your steady position. Arms reach out to T, and then we find triangle pose once again. So again, your options, anywhere on the leg, avoiding the knee, or you can place the left hand on a block. Take your right hand, stretch the right hip away, wrap the low ribs underneath you, and create as much length as you can between the left hip crease and left armpit. So we want both sides of the waist to be nice and long here. Stretch the right arm overhead if that feels good in your neck. Kind of looking down to release the back of the neck and free the gaze. We'll be here a few more breaths. Really magnetizing the feet toward each other to create that gentle activation in the inner thighs. A micro bend in the left knee here. And slowly rise back up. You can move your block to the center once again. This time we'll turn toes out, heels in. Let your hips sink nice and low into that goddess squat. Coil the belly into spine so we're integrated here, not puffing the low ribs. Then we'll reach the arms nice and tall. Interlace the fingers, press the palms away from you. As you stretch the hips down, can you reach the palms toward the sky? Then release your right forearm to right thigh. Stretch the left arm up and over. Come through center. Stretch the arms forward first. And then opposite side here. Left forearm to thigh. Right arm up and over. As you come through center now, bring the heels of your hands to your hip creases. And here's an opportunity. We always try not to shrug the shoulders, but let your shoulders really shrug here. And as you press down in the hip creases, allow your pelvis to just float. So this should feel really nice, some traction for the low spine. Just allowing the weight of the pelvis to sort of be lifted for a few moments. And then we'll reach up, arms overhead. And we'll slowly start to transition out. So take your hands over your left foot. Let your back knee come down. And your front knee joins it. And then cross at the ankles to come into a seat. So we're moving now to the grounding, more restorative portion of our flow. So if you like, you can bring your blanket back to sit on. You can have your block handy. We'll extend the left leg out, the right knee bends out to the side. So I'm going to mirror you here because we'll spend some time sort of facing the long edge of the mat. So left leg is forward, right knee is out. We're reaching the arms up here, and as you exhale, a gentle fold over that left leg. If you like, you can bring your block to rest your forehead so that you can be in this posture without any gripping, without any strain. Try to find some sort of passive activation in that left leg by flexing the foot, pressing the heel down. Notice if your mind and body begin to rush, can you slow it down and just be here? We'll start to come up here. Turn to face the long edge of your mat. You can let your right knee come out to the side. Take your left hand to your left thigh, left shin, and begin to reach into that side bend here. It can also be helpful to press that opposite hip crease away and let your left ear move toward your left shoulder. And then rise up. We'll let the soles of the feet touch here in Cobbler Pose. Such a great posture for the menstrual phase. You can grab ankles or even wrap peace fingers around your big toes. Soften the shoulders here. And then send your heart forward first. Find as far as you can go without rounding in the back. And then allow your back to round, the forehead to come towards the earth. Again, you can find your block here. It can be at any elevation to support the fold that sort of feels like your intuitive edge, but without pushing, without force. You can find a gentle press with the feet into each other. And just breathe. Really turning your attention, your focus inward. You might even start to close the eyes a bit. Then we'll come up. We're reversing the order of that sequence now. So your left knee out to the side, right hand on your right leg, reaching the left arm up and over to the right. Again, here you might take the left hand to the left thigh, move your right ear toward your right shoulder. And then we'll turn now to face the short edge of your mat with your right leg extended, your left knee out to the side. Head to knee pose now on the second side, reaching the arms up. And then as you exhale, fold any amount. Really heavy the left hip crease down towards the mat. You can bring your block under the forehead. Again, finding a place that gives you sensation, but one that is sustainable. So you're not finding that reactive gripping of the muscles, just creating a bit of length. We'll enjoy a few more very deep breaths here. And then slowly begin to come up. You can set your block off to the side. And then take your front leg, bend it behind you, coming into sometimes called wheel of life pose, sort of this zigzag shape. Let your left hand come behind you. Stretch your right arm up, lift the hips. Should feel really good in the right hip flexor, the right quad, kind of a bit of soothing for any muscle tightness you might have from strength work in the luteal phase. Then slowly come down. We'll just windshield wiper the knees side to side. And then letting the knees lower down. So now your left foot behind you. Take your right hand behind you and then lift the left arm high as you extend the hips up and forward. This time working into the left quadricep, left leg and hip flexor. And release down. You can send your legs out in front of you now. So for this, our final restorative and relaxation, I like to use a blanket for legs up the wall. So you can take your blanket and have it touching the edge where the wall meets the floor. And then to enter into this posture, we'll sit on the blanket and let one hip touch the wall. So you want to be really close to the wall, as close as you can. And then you can swing your legs up the wall so that your back is supported and cushioned under the blanket. Just let your legs kind of crawl up the wall for a moment. Find that position. We'll enjoy a few hip openers before our final rest. You can start to bend into the right knee. Cross your left ankle over right. Press the left knee away. And you can control the intensity here, so you can press with that right foot into the wall a bit more. Move the pubic bone toward the earth. And breathe. So the wall supported variation here just gives us kind of a stable place to work into the outer hips, the glutes. And we'll switch sides now, bringing left foot to the wall, cross right ankle over left knee, flex that right foot. Again, here another opportunity for self-reflection, observation. What do you feel from left to right? Which side feels like it requires a bit more attention? And what is that telling you about the subtle body, your energetic body? What is it telling you about how you sit, how you walk, how you play? And release that foot now. Coming into a straddle. So let your legs stretch out as far as is comfortable. And then I like to place my hands on the outer thighs for a bit of support, but not so much that it begins to strain the shoulders, just enough that you don't feel like it's overextending the inner thighs, the groin. Let gravity do the work here. So it's a bit like the energetics of our flow days. We want to let gravity, the downward pull, work for us. So it requires something of surrender. Can we create the relaxation response that allows everything to shed, that allows us to let go? Last few breaths here. And we'll enjoy our final relaxation with legs up the wall. So use your hands to help your legs back up the wall. You can keep a gentle bend in the knees. You can allow your arms to rest. Really take up some space here. We'll be here a minute or two more, just in this restorative posture. It increases blood flow to the heart, which tells our heart it doesn't have to work so hard. The breath rate slows. Can you soften all of the muscles in your face? So this inversion is gentle enough to practice on your flow days. It's not so intense as to counter downward flow, but instead it just allows us to relax into it. Allows the body to find rest, to recover. And as you rest here, starting to plant any seeds of intention for this upcoming cycle. We have this rhythmic opportunity each month to really shed any excess energy, anything that is no longer serving us, to create that fertile ground for new ideas, new intentions, new dreams, new goals. So rest in that space here. Listen for anything that arises. hope that you will continue to rest here as long as you need, as long as you can, as long as you like. And I will close out our time together from this place so as not to disrupt you if you choose to stay a bit longer. We'll just offer a quiet whisper of gratitude to thank you so much for letting your body be moved.